Wait, she doesn't know what... Emma doesn't know what nicotine is.
This Zyn stuff looks gross.
Isn't it
not much of an improvement on coke?
It's just nicotine, right? Those Zyn ones?
Yeah.
What's the point? Do you get high from nicotine? I thought you get high from the tobacco. Or
Nicotine.
Neither.
That's what it is. It's nicotine in the tobacco.
Addicted to it.
Right, but that's the stuff that's the stimulating part of it?
Nicotine is a stimulant.
Right, I know. Okay. But then what's the point of just having the... Okay. Nicotine is the stimulating part of tobacco? This was never my vice, so I don't know anything about tobacco.
Yes,
Okay.
that's why people have nicotine patches. And
Right, but that's the part that makes you like...
Yes.
Wakes you alert? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry.
oh boy.
She seems like the kind of person who's never drawn, like, doesn't even drink. That's actually the least surprising thing I've ever heard in my life.
All right, 5 more. Iowa Ryan.
That might be the least surprising thing I've actually ever heard from her ever. I totally believe that. I totally believe that.
There's embellishment here and there. But do I believe that judges are actively working to obstruct the justice system in order to facilitate illegal immigrants into the country? Yes, I think that. And I think any of them that do that should be arrested. And I think the ones that do that and they unknowingly or knowingly help a member of a terrorist organization should be charged directly with treason.
Okay. That's
what I believe. Not disbarring, not putting them in jail. Again, Old Testament. The moment that you implement legitimate, real, personal consequence is the moment that this stuff goes away. So Trump is too soft. He's way too soft.
Okay.
Way too soft. I hope Trump... Listen, can somebody fucking tell him this? His entire...
I'm surprised Asmund hasn't had a trip to the White House yet, to be clear. To be honest, I'm surprised he hasn't gotten an invite personally.
First term, he spent trying to be reasonable. Bro, you don't have to give a fuck anymore. Just do it. Just do it. Everybody wants this. It's the right thing to do. Just fucking do it. Go, yeah, ball out. Fuck it, ball out. Exactly. Attorney General is too soft? I think she's way too soft as well.
But remember, guys, he's going to cry when my rhetoric is so extreme. He's going to cry, and he's going to piss and shit and be a little baby bitch whenever I say it. Okay, dude.
I want somebody like Tom Homan in there, right? Like, the families can be deported together. Let's get him in charge.
Good one.
This guy knows what matters.
Epic, dude.
This is an ABC News special from inside the White House.
When you stepped back in the Oval Office after you were reelected, right? What went through your mind? Triumphant when you walked back?
Yeah, there's a feeling of triumph.
President Donald J. Trump on his 100th day in office. From the #1 issue, the economy.
People are worried, even some people who voted for you saying, I didn't sign up for this. So how do you answer those concerns?
Well, they did sign up for it, actually.
To immigration.
It is an undeniable fact that illegal crossings at the southern border have plummeted, a staggering decline. But there are questions about your methods.
To Elon Musk.
Did DOGE go too far, too fast, too reckless?
And the concerns from many
Jesus
Americans
Christ.
about
This
the
is like a
impact
trailer
of
for
tariffs.
Everything's going to be just fine.
A superhero
President
movie.
Trump, the first 100 days, the interview in the Oval Office with ABC News anchor and senior national correspondent Terry Moran.
Earlier today, I sat down with President Trump in the Oval Office for an exclusive interview on his 100th day of his second term. It was a great opportunity to ask him some wide-ranging questions about the issues that most concern so many Americans.
Okay.
We talked about the economy and his tariffs. We talked about immigration and those deportations. And you can see here the White House has put up some posters that they say show some of the violent criminals that have so far been deported. We talked about a lot more.
Not unhinged, by the way, at all. Totally normal.
Provocative, at times combative, and always he was strong in his convictions about his policies. But before we get to the interview, we begin tonight with a look inside the Oval Office that Donald Trump has transformed.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. How are you?
Hello.
This is the Oval Office. This is the Resolute desk, which is really something very spectacular. There's nothing quite like it. And they give you a choice of about 7 different desks, but this is the one I chose. Ronald Reagan had it, FDR had it, a few people had it, but I found it to be the most beautiful.
It is amazing.
This is an amazing space, and amazing maybe architecturally wonderful, but amazing for what it represents. It represents the U.S., and if properly used, a lot of good things can happen.
I see Ronald Reagan over there.
Yeah, Ronald Reagan.
Right to your left.
Being in the Oval Office is very important.
Not that great of a
See Ronald
president, to be
Reagan
honest.
here, and
Nowhere near
they
as great
put
as
him a little bit larger. It sort of seemed to fit very
our boy
nicely.
Trump.
You have Democrats a little bit. You have
Franklin Roosevelt.
Franklin Roosevelt. So you look at that picture and
He had no idea.
you have
Franklin Roosevelt.
Franklin Roosevelt.
Kill
so
me,
you look
dude.
at that picture and people say, well, what's he doing up there? But look, he was a serious president, whether we like it or not. He was a four-termer and went through a war. You have Lincoln, you have Washington, but you look over here, that's Monroe, the Monroe Doctrine.
Why is he up there?
I think the Monroe Doctrine was pretty important. That was his claim to fame. Over here, you have the original of Abraham Lincoln and George Washington, and of course, you have the
Claim to
Declaration of
fame.
Independence.
What does it mean to you?
Well, it means exactly what it says. It's a declaration. It's a declaration of unity and love and respect, and it means a lot. And it's something very special to our country.
Lincoln's portrait up there. I'm not familiar with that one, but I think when I'm looking at that famous line in the second inaugural, with malice toward none, with
Right,
charity toward
right.
all. Is that
Well, he was a great president. He went through a lot.
And the Oval Office is always changing between presidents, and that
changes,
says
yeah,
something.
it does.
What does this say about how you feel about the country and the office?
Well, I think it says I love the country. I mean, I'm putting pictures of presidents up that have never been up, pictures that weren't largely used. And in many cases, great men, in this case men, but great men of great achievement.
And your every detail, it seems.
Yeah.
This is your office.
I'm a very detailed person. I'm a very clean person. I like cleanliness. I like to see this space be treated properly. I've added a lot to the space in terms of beautification, in terms of modernization. That's
a gallery of presidents.
It really is. It really is. So, and it's an honor to have you people with us.
Mr. President, thank you for doing this.
Thank you very much.
Here in the Oval Office, it's
Now we've
special.
got our glaze out of the
100
way.
days into your second term. So, what's the one thing, just one thing, that you think is the most significant thing you've done so far in these 100 days?
Well, I think maybe the border is the most significant because our country was really going bad. They were allowing people to come in from prisons, as you know, and you've heard me say it, but you've heard a lot of people say it. Prisons, mental institutions, gang members, murderers. We had many murders, 11,888, they think. Some murdered more than one person. So you had murderers coming in, you had everybody coming in, and not just South
Everybody.
America, from all over the world. They were emptying their prisons into our country. And now it's totally closed down. And you've seen just yesterday, they announced 99.9%. Nobody thought that could happen. And it happened quickly, very quickly. And I think that's very significant. But we're doing other things that are very significant. Results will take a little bit longer because it's one of those, it's complicated. It's many years of trading abuse. We've been abused by other countries for years and years. They laughed at us. They thought we were stupid people.
Same
and
talking points
we're
over and
fixing
over
it.
again. Exciting.
And, I think that's going to be very, very important. But
We have a lot of ground to cover.
yeah, I would really say that the border is so important. Just
And
can't
we'll get there.
let that
Immigration,
happen.
huge.
Yeah.
And we're going to get there. But I want to start
Sure.
with the economy, the number one issue for so many people, for just about everybody. It's one of the main reasons that you're back in this office. And now we have this trade war with China that Moody's and other analysts say is going to cost American families
Fuck them.
thousands of more dollars per year. And there is a lot of concern out there.
Fuck
People
them.
are worried. Even some people who voted for you saying, I didn't sign up for this. So how do
Actually-
you answer those concerns?
Well,
You
they
signed
did
up-
sign up for it, actually, and this is what I campaigned on. I said that we've been.
You did sign up for it. Based? Based?
Well, they did sign up for it, actually, and this is what I campaigned on.
Okay.
I said that we've been abused by other countries at levels that nobody's ever seen before. We were losing $3 to $5 billion a day on trade. We were losing $1.5 trillion to $2 trillion a year. Not sustainable. They were taking advantage of us like they've never. I could have left it that way, and at some point there would have been an implosion like nobody's ever seen. But I said, no, we have to fix it. I've wanted to do this for many years. You know, I had the best economy during my first term. We had a tremendous economy, tremendous success.
Thanks.
And we did tremendous numbers of tariffs on, we took in a lot of money from tariffs, China in particular.
I feel like I can't watch the news anymore. All the major stations slurping his cock and normalizing this clown. I mean, it's one of these will be one of the things that when you write about them in history, I hope conservatives are ashamed of themselves. Like this, assuming we survive this era, I think this will be the new litmus test of what are people capable of. Like it used to be like, what would it take to make you a Nazi? Like this will be the new litmus test of like, what would it take to make you blindly follow like an actual authoritarian leader in an otherwise democratic system? Where you have a guy who's just so like people, because we're asking right now, like, how can the news stations all be so biased in favor of this president? But when you look at it in the history books, it's going to write stuff like, you know, Donald Trump came into office. Before he even came into office, some of his actions were filing defamation lawsuits against pollsters, like he's doing with the lady in Iowa, filing defamation lawsuits against media companies like 60 Minutes that were posting interviews of another candidate that he didn't like for Kamala Harris. They're going to say he immediately collected tens of millions of dollars from his friends who were settling lawsuits that he had launched against their companies, Facebook and X, claiming that his First Amendment rights were being violated by him being banned from those platforms. And then once he was in office, he began to target political opponents with the DOJ, sometimes even calling them out with executive orders, like he's done with the law firms. He began to launch more lawsuits against other companies that were, I think he just recently, there was one announced, I just read this today. Was it another 60 Minutes related thing that he was going to launch a lawsuit against a media company for, I don't remember what this one was for. He began to cut people out of the White House press corps if they weren't carrying, you know, his pre-approved lines. So, for instance, like when the AP got kicked out for not calling it the Gulf of America, but instead the Gulf of Mexico. Yeah, I mean, like when you read all of these things, when the next paragraph is, you know, as a result of all of this, media companies were oftentimes very reluctant to criticize Trump for everything. Like a student reading this would be like, oh yeah, of course, obviously, it was like a dictator. He was attacking the entirety of the media. No shit. But today in America, we act like, oh, how could this be possible? Why are people doing this? How could they possibly give in to Trump so easily? But in the history books, you'll read Donald Trump threatened to lock away Mark Zuckerberg, one of the richest people in the world, lock him away in prison for life because Donald Trump was unhappy with how the election stuff was being reported on, I guess. You know, like people are looking at it and go, oh yeah, obviously it's pressure from an authoritarian leader. But
hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs. We had no inflation, as you know. We had an incredible economy. We're given credit for a great economy. But I said, we have to fix this. Otherwise, it's just not self-sustaining.
Well, one of the things you ran on was you'd said you'd bring prices down on day one, and that it would happen fast, and that it would happen fast. And most economists will tell you that tariffs will raise prices. So don't your tariffs cut against that promise you made to bring prices down?
No, because I had massive tariffs on China, if you remember, in my first term, and we had essentially no inflation, like around 1% inflation, which is like a perfect number. And then when Biden took over, it went through the roof. It went to probably the worst inflation we've ever had. I mean, we had an inflation nightmare. Now, if you look at what's happening now, we're only there for 100 days, as you say. And in 100 days, we took over. We had bad inflation for 4 years, for 2 years of, especially 2 years of his administration. I would say record-setting like we've never seen. They say 48 years, the worst in 48 years. I say it was much worse than that.
Yeah.
Right. So now if you look at what's happened, energy is down. Gasoline hit $1.98 in a few states during the last couple of days. It was $3.50 and $4 and $4.50. but gasoline is way down. When I took over, you remember the big thing with eggs. They hit me the first week, eggs, 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 like it was my fault. I said, I didn't cause this problem.
How is it that you have more balls than someone who can literally never lose wealth or influence? Well, I mean, I'm not directly being called out by the Trump administration. I mean, it's easy for me to call them out because it's my platform and it's my brand and it's everything else. Like, would I have the same energy if I started to get letters from the FBI or if Donald Trump wrote an executive order about me? I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know if I would still be that brave.
This problem was caused by Biden. What's the problem with eggs? And they said they've doubled. And well, eggs are down 87% since I got involved.
A lot of that is
and
bird
by the way,
flu,
and there were
right?
plenty of eggs for Easter, which we just went through. There were plenty of eggs for Easter. They were saying you won't have enough eggs for Easter. My secretary did a fantastic job on eggs. Groceries are down. Everything's down.
Okay.
Interest rates are the same. Interest rates should be down, but we have a Federal Reserve that wants to be stubborn. They want to be cute.
We'll get to that. You said something a couple of weeks ago that struck me. You said concerning the tariffs, which economists say are going to raise prices, you said, quote, hang tough. It won't be easy. You said that to the American people. Is that what Americans should
I've
expect,
said
some
that.
hard times?
I've said
because
that
of
during
these
my
tariffs?
campaign. Look, we won a campaign by a lot. We won all 7 swing states. We won the popular vote by a lot. Well, they're laughing at us. It came in. Gasoline is down. Grocery. I took it for, we had a tremendous campaign. I said all
Because of
during
these
my
tariffs?
campaign. Look, we won a campaign by a lot. We won all 7 swing states. We won the popular vote by a lot. We had a tremendous campaign. I said all of these things during my campaign. I said, you're going to have a transition period. We've been ripped off by every country all over the world. They're laughing at us. They thought we were stupid people, and we were. And I said, that's not going to happen. We're not
But
going to
hard
let that
times?
happen.
Hard times are ahead?
I don't think so. I
Hang
think
tough.
great times are ahead. Look, since I came in,
Great
gasoline
times.
is down, groceries are down, egg prices are down, many things are down, just about everything. You don't have the drop in fuel and energy and oil like we did. I took it from
Jesus Christ,
maybe
dude.
$3.20,
not
maybe
good.
more than that.
That drop's not
down
good.
into a much lower number. When you have that kind of a drop, you're not going to have inflation.
Not now, but it's the tariffs.
Like, nobody brings that up. I don't know why. You don't have to be a fucking econ genius. I'm not like the smartest guy in the world or even like necessarily exceptionally smart when it comes to econ. Like, energy drops as demand or the expectation of demand decreases. So when you're looking at energy drops, I'm pretty sure this is the explainer for why energy prices are dropping right now, but nobody seems to ask him about that ever. Like, not a single question ever. That's why, but whatever.
Right? We still have 145% tariffs on China.
why is it
Your
that-
Treasury Secretary said we basically have an embargo on China.
Look, you're
and
trying
that-
to say something's going to happen, Terry.
No, okay, well,
nothing's going to happen.
You know business. I
Terry,
want to ask you.
I do know business.
Yes,
He's getting
so
mad.
145% tariffs on China, and that is
That's good.
basically
That's
an
good.
embargo.
They deserve it.
It'll raise prices on
They
everything
deserve
from
it.
electronics to clothing to building houses.
You don't know that. You don't know whether or not China's going
That's
to eat it.
mathematics.
China probably will eat those tariffs, but at 145, they basically can't do much business with the United States. And they were making from us $1 trillion a year. They were ripping us off like nobody's ever ripped us off. And
Wait, where does that number even come from? Was our trade deficit was not $1 trillion a year from China? What does that even come from?
by the way, we have other countries that were just as bad. If you look at the European Union, it was terrible what they've done to us. Every country, almost every country in the world was ripping us off. They're not doing that anymore.
I want you to think
believe
about
it.
the
Basically.
boom that this country has had in small businesses, mom and pop Etsy stores, small businesses that
Really?
became
They
big
haven't
businesses.
had a boom because of inflation.
Well,
the
no,
boom,
what
the
they've
boom
done-
was inflationary boom. The people were wiped out with inflation. I
Yes.
mean, you read the
Yes.
news, you
Yes.
do the business
now
stuff,
they
I
face,
assume.
Now, a lot of them built those businesses on the trading model.
Yeah, and they're gonna
before
make
you.
more money
They
now.
sourced their products overseas, and now they're looking at an extinction
I've been
event.
here.
It's a disaster for them.
I've been here for 3 months. I've taken a trade deficit down to a number that's very, very starting to get really good. I just got here. We had a country that it was not sustainable. What Biden did to this country between the open borders where criminals poured into our country, between every country in the world ripping us off on trade, It was not sustainable.
So your message to those small businesses who are saying we can't.
Damn. Aposio Pieces. Thanks for gifting Mexiho Vernanda a tier 5 sub. Can I ask a question about my chat's memes that I don't get? What is the Vernanda meme? Where the fuck does this come from?
Can't live a month, 2 months.
What does it even
with these
stand for?
tariffs. Apple got a big deal. Is there something for them?
No, not only Apple. We've got $7 to $8 trillion
Literally nobody
being invested
knows.
in our country in 2 months. Biden didn't have that over a year. I mean, if you
Biden?
look at Biden, nobody was really investing in this country. Everybody was ripping off our country. Apple's putting up $500 billion, but that's only one of many companies.
Did somebody say
companies are flooding into our
Biden?
country right now.
So your answer to the concern about the tariffs is everything's
Eat
going to
shit.
be hunky-dory.
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
Everything's going to be just fine.
We're good.
It wouldn't have been if I didn't do this. I had a choice. I could leave it, have a nice, easy time, but I think ultimately you would have had an implosion. Our country had inflation that was worse than they've ever had it before. You don't mention
Do you
that.
understand?
Why don't you mention that?
Yeah,
We
nobody.
had the worst inflation.
You ever notice that not a single person ever talked about the inflation under Biden? Like, I don't think a single time. I don't know if I ever even heard them talk about inflation ever.
Probably in the history of our country, people say 48 years, probably in the history of our country, we had the
Worse
worst
than the
inflation.
Great Depression,
and
even.
People were dying over the inflation. You know that.
Deaths.
Now the grocery prices are coming down, the energy prices are coming down, gasoline's coming down. It's all heading in the right direction.
Okay, let's move on to immigration.
Coming up,
It is an undeniable fact that illegal crossings at the southern border have plummeted, a staggering decline.
Thank
but
God.
there are questions about your methods.
Bro, no one cares.
President Trump, the first 100 days.
This guy's a hater.
Continues.
Okay, let's move on to immigration. And as you said, it is an undeniable fact that illegal crossings at the southern border have plummeted, a staggering decline. But there are questions about your methods. And so I want to ask
About my message?
methods, about your methods, how you're
They
accomplishing
seem to
this.
work.
Do you acknowledge that under our law, every single person who gets deported gets a hearing first to make their case?
Well, are we talking about people that are citizens of our country or not?
No, you're not deporting citizens at this point.
Why would you
Let me ask
deport
Did
citizens?
they get hearings when Biden allowed
Let them in?
21 million, because I think the number is 20 million people to flow into our country? You had 21 million people that came into our country through a stupid open border, and they were prisoners, and they were people that you don't want, in many cases, in our country, right? They came from all over the world. They came from the Congo. They came from South. They came from all
South.
over the world. We're talking about some of the roughest countries in the world they had here, including terrorists, by the way. Now,
Bet you didn't know that,
we
did ya?
give them a hearing when they came in?
Well, the law requires that every single person who is going to be deported gets a hearing first. Do you acknowledge that?
I'll have to ask the lawyers about that. All I can say is this. If you're going to have 21 million people, and if we have to get a lot of them out because they're criminals, we're going to have to act fast. We can't. Do you think we can give 21 million trials? Let's say each trial takes 2 weeks. Is that what you want us to
The
do?
law
Give
is the
21
law,
million?
sir. The
Oh
law
my
is the law.
God. The law is the
Doesn't say
law.
anything about trials.
This guy's a law
No, not
cuck.
trials, hearings. I said
These
hearings.
people came in, they're not citizens. They came in illegally. They came into our country
Right.
illegally.
And
We
there's-
have to get them out.
There's a legal process for that.
I can't, sure, and we follow the legal process. I can't have a trial, a major
I'm
trial
not
for
saying
every
major.
person that came in illegally. We have thousands of murderers that came in. They're going to murder people. They already have murdered people in our country.
Right, so
we have to get them out,
They're
and we have to
bad
get them
guys,
out fast.
really bad guys. But in our country, even bad guys get due process, right?
If people come into our country illegally, there's a different standard. These are illegal. They came in illegally.
But they get due process.
Well, they get a process where we have to get them out. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the Venezuelans.
They get whatever my lawyers say.
Right. All right, let's talk about the Venezuelans. You deported more than 200 Venezuelans to that prison in El Salvador. You say they're violent, they're gang members, they're terrorists. Many of them don't have a criminal
They are,
record
by the way.
at all.
Well,
but I want to.
I'm not so sure about that if you take a look.
I want to read you something.
Excuse me, when you look at
Excuse me.
those people, they were violent people. They were violent people.
But many of them don't have a criminal record
Go
at this
ahead.
point.
I don't,
So
I don't,
I wanna
that's what
read
you
something
say.
Got him.
Based on their lawyer, what their lawyers
Go
have
ahead.
said.
That's what
Okay.
you say, bitch.
Joe Rogan said this. Joe Rogan, one of the leading podcasters, Trump supporter, about the deportation of Venezuelans. He said, quote, rounding up gang members and shipping them to El Salvador with no due process, he said it was dangerous, and added, quote, we got to be careful that we don't become monsters while we're fighting monsters. Is Joe Rogan right?
Oh, I agree with that 100%. Yeah, we want to be careful, and we are careful. We're doing something that has to be done. We have a country that's very sick. Joe Biden, and it's not him because I don't even think he knew what the hell was happening, but the people
I love
around
that
him
meme.
are vicious people, and what they've done to the country is unbelievable. They've allowed 21 million people to pour into our country. Many of these people are criminals. They've allowed you mentioned Venezuela, the jails of Venezuela to be emptied into the United States. Do you know Venezuela crime is way down? Way, way down. You know why? Because their criminals are now living happily in the United States of America.
Bet you didn't know that.
And we're getting them out. And I was elected to get them out. And we're getting them out.
Under the law. It
And
sounds
we're
like-
getting them out fast. And we're getting them out legally. Now, in some cases, we have judges. In some cases, they're radical left judges. What happened the other day where a judge was protecting a criminal was horrible. And I think she's got big problems,
Probably.
frankly.
I wanna
And
talk
there are a
about-
couple of them like that.
I wanna talk about one
Wait
man.
a minute.
Yep.
We have to be treated fairly by judges. And we're not being treated fairly by all judges.
Fairly is when we win, by
That's
the
a
way.
subject. So you're saying that you don't like some of the rulings, some of the
Well,
court orders?
I think the rulings will be overturned, yeah.
All right, well, let me ask you about one man and one court order. Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He's the Salvadoran man who crossed into this country illegally, but who is under a protective order that he not be sent back to El Salvador. Your government sent him back to El Salvador and acknowledged in court that was a mistake. And now the Supreme Court has upheld an order that you must return him to facilitate his return
We'll
to
see.
the United States. What are you doing to comply?
Well, the lawyer that said it was a mistake
Got
was here
fired.
a long time, was not appointed by us. Should
took
not
care
have
of him.
said that. Should not have said that. And just so
Said
you
it in court.
understand,
Said
the
it in
person
court.
that you're talking about, you know, you're making this person sound, this is a MS-13 gang member, a tough cookie, been in lots of skirmishes,
Tough
beat the hell
cookie.
out of his wife, and the wife was petrified to even talk about him, okay? This
Pretty
is
sure the
not
wife
an
is the one that
innocent,
filed the case
wonderful
to bring it
gentleman
back,
from
but
Maryland.
I'm not saying he's a good guy. It's about the rule of law. The order from the
Based?
Supreme Court stands,
Came
sir.
into our country illegally.
You could get him back. There's a phone on this desk.
I could.
You could pick it up, and with all the power of the presidency, you could call up the president of El Salvador and say, send him back right now.
And if he were the gentleman that you say he is, I would do that.
But the court has
he's
ordered
not.
you to facilitate that.
I'm not the one making this decision. We have lawyers that
president.
don't
It's
not
want
up
to
to
do
him.
this.
But the
Terry.
buck stops in this office.
No. I follow the law. You want me to follow the law? If I were the president that just wanted to do anything, I'd probably keep him right where he
Supreme
is.
Court says what the law is.
Listen, I was elected to take care of a problem. It was a unforced error that was made by a very incompetent man, a man that turned out to be incompetent, that you always said was wonderful, a great genius, right? And now you find out, all of the media now, they're saying what a mistake they made. A man who was grossly incompetent allowed us to have open borders where millions of people flowed in. I campaigned on that issue. I wouldn't say it was my number one issue, but it was pretty close.
Right up there.
I campaigned on that issue. I've done an amazing job. I have closed borders. He said you couldn't do it. You wouldn't be able to do it. It would never happen. Well, it happened, and it happened very quickly. Wait a minute. When
Hold
we
on.
have criminals,
He's not done yet.
murderers, criminals in this country, we have to get them out, and we're doing it.
By law.
And you'll pick out one man, but even the man that you picked out, he said he wasn't a member of a gang. And then they looked, and
All right.
on his knuckles, he had MS-13.
There's a dispute
But
over that.
wait a minute. He had MS-13 on his knuckles
didn't say-
tattooed.
Oh, he had some tattoos that are interpreted that way. But let's move on.
Wait a minute. Hey, Terry.
He did not
Don't
have the
do that.
letter MS13.
It says MS-13.
That was
This is a Photoshop, by the way, that he's fallen for. But
Photoshop. So let me
That
just...
was Photoshop. Terry, you
He
can't
had-
do that. Hey, they're giving you the big break of a lifetime. You know, you're doing the interview. I picked you because, frankly, I never heard of you, but that's okay.
I knew
But
this
I
would
picked
come.
you, Terry, but you're not being very nice. He had MS-13
All right,
tattooed.
we'll agree to disagree. I want to
Terry,
move on to something else.
Terry, do you want me to show you the picture?
I saw the picture. We'll
And you think it
agree
was
to disagree.
Photoshop? Well,
Here we go. Here we go.
Don't Photoshop it. Go look at his hand. He
Fair
had
enough.
MS-13.
He did have tattoos that can be interpreted that way. I'm not an expert on them. I want to turn to Ukraine,
No,
sir.
Terry,
I want to get to
Terry,
Ukraine.
No. He had MS, as clear as you can be, not interpreted. This is why
right.
people no longer believe the news, because
when
it's
he was
fake
photographed
news.
in El Salvador, they aren't there. But let's just go on. They aren't there when he's in El Salvador.
They
Take a
weren't
look
there,
at the
but they're
photograph.
there now, right?
No,
but they're there
in
now.
your picture.
Terry,
Ukraine, sir.
Terry.
he's got MS-13 on his knuckles.
1-3.
Okay?
All right, we'll take a look at that.
It's you do
We'll take a
such a
look.
disservice.
We'll take a look at
Why
that,
don't you
sir.
just say, yes, he does, and, go on to something
It's
else?
contested. Ukraine.
It's not contested.
Coming up, the Russia-Ukraine war
Don't
You
forget,
think he wants
this
peace?
is a
You think Vladimir Putin wants peace?
and that historic meeting. President Trump, the first 100 days, continues.
Okay, true. I am sweeping for Trump a little bit here. Okay, I should not be calling it a Photoshop. It is not a Photoshop. It's literally just like fucking MS Word or MS Paint with like the font over it. It's not actually like a Photoshop. It's just obviously not. It's just not. It's just fucking retarded.
I want to turn, I was just in Rome, and to that moving photograph of you and President Zelensky sitting in St. Peter's Basilica talking peace. It went around the world.
Sure.
Take us into that moment.
Well, look, the Ukraine is a very serious, very tough situation. And this is Biden's war. This is not my war, but I want to see if I can solve it, because probably close to 5,000 young soldiers a week are being killed, Russian and Ukrainian. We also spend.
Could Trump just be meaning the actual tattoos and how they are interpreted? No, he literally said, I'm sorry, did you just not listen to this? How can you even say that? Did you not listen to him say over and over and over again? Literally, they are MS-13. He literally said that. Why would you even ask that question? What?
Spend a tremendous amount of money in Ukraine, and Europe should be spending much more than us. They're not. They're spending much less. It's been badly handled by the Biden administration. It's been badly handled all the way around, the way around.
That moment.
The moment was a moment of solace, in a sense, because tremendous numbers of people are dying. A lot of his people are dying. They're being killed. And I feel very badly about it. I feel very badly about it. That's a war that would have never happened if I were president. And it didn't happen for 4 years. It was never even a thought of it happening.
It does feel like something's
It was literally ongoing, but okay, dude.
happening after that meeting with Zelensky in St. Peter's. You posted this on social media. There was no reason for Putin to be shooting missiles into civilian areas and cities and towns over the last few days. It makes me think that maybe...
Well, that was part of my post, but you're right. That was a part of a post.
And it says, it makes me think that maybe he doesn't want to stop the war. He's just tapping me along.
Yeah, that's possible. Sure.
He might be...
He could be tapping me along a little bit. I would say that he would like to stop the war. I think that if it weren't for me, I think he'd want to take over the whole country, personally. I always felt. So when I left, there wasn't even a chance that this would happen. When Biden got involved, I won't say whether or not he handled it properly, but obviously it wasn't good because the war started. Putin went in, the war started. I believe that Putin wanted to get all of Ukraine once he went in. And I think part of the reason he went in, he saw what happened in Afghanistan, how incompetently Milley and all these guys handled that. It was one of the greatest embarrassments of our lifetimes, but maybe in the history of our country. Okay. So Putin went in. I think Putin wanted all of Ukraine.
Right.
I think if I didn't win the election, he would have gotten all of Ukraine. I think he would have taken all of Ukraine. I think his first choice, never with me, he would have never gone in. With this group of losers, he went in, he saw what happened in Afghanistan. He said, wow, this is my chance. Because it was always the apple of his eye. I talked to him. Ukraine was the apple of his eye. I think he wanted the whole country.
You've said for
And
months...
because of me, I do believe that he's willing to stop the fighting. Don't
You
forget,
think he wants
this
peace?
is
You think Vladimir Putin wants peace?
I think he does, yes. I think
Still.
he does. I think
Even
because
with the
of
raining missiles
I
on.
think he really his dream was to take over the whole country.
And
I
I
think
stopped that.
because of me, he's not going to do that.
Wow. So brave.
Do you trust
I
him?
think-
Do you trust him?
I don't trust you. I don't trust a lot of people. I don't trust you. Look at you. You come in all shooting for bear. You're so happy to do the interview.
I am
And then
happy.
you start hitting me with fake questions. He's so
Like, listen to this. This is the way a dictator talks, right? Like, we were just going to do an interview, and you're what, asking me all these hard questions? Seriously? Really? Maybe I'll do a lawsuit against you guys, you know? This is how he talks.
tell me that a guy whose hand is covered
All right,
with a
we're back to
tattoo doesn't have the tattoo, you know.
all right.
I mean, you're being dishonest.
No, I'm not.
Let me
No, I
just
am
tell
not,
you,
sir.
I don't trust a lot of people. But I do think this. I think that let's say he respects me. And I believe because of me, he's not going to take over the whole. But his decision, his choice would be to take over all of Ukraine. It's a war that never should have happened.
You've
It
said
did
that a
happen
million
because
times,
of
yeah.
incompetent people.
Last question on this.
But it never should have happened.
If there's no peace deal, will the U.S. cut off military aid to Ukraine?
I don't want to tell you that. I'm not going to tell you whether or
That
not I would
sounds-
or not. I want to leave that as a big fat secret because I don't
Top
want to ruin
secret,
a
guys.
negotiation. But
I'd be worried
I
if
will
I
tell
were
you, I
Ukrainian.
was not happy when I saw Putin shooting missiles into a few towns and cities. And that was not something that I like seeing. And I thought it was inappropriate. But I think the whole war is inappropriate.
Okay.
Again, it's a war that shouldn't have happened. This is a war that if the election weren't rigged, and it was totally rigged, the 2020 election, if it
okay.
weren't rigged,
That one, the
you
rigged,
wouldn't have
okay.
that. You wouldn't have had the embarrassment of
Uh-huh.
Afghanistan.
Got it.
You wouldn't have October
Thank you, Grandpa.
7th with Israel. You wouldn't have had any of the problems that you
Thank
have
you.
right now.
I wanna ask one
and
question.
you wouldn't have had inflation either.
All right, I want to ask one question about Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. There's a lot of turmoil at the Pentagon right now. There's the signal chat with his wife on it where he's discussing that attack in Yemen. There's another signal chat discussing the attack on Yemen. There's a reporter accidentally involved. You said the other day that you had a talk with the secretary. Did you take him to the woodshed?
I had a talk with him, and whatever I said, I probably wouldn't be inclined to tell you. But we had a good talk. He's
Got
a
him.
talented guy. He's young, he's smart, highly educated, and I think he's going to be a very good defense.
Oh my God, he
hopefully
got
a great
him.
defense secretary. But he'll
He
be
didn't
a very
answer a
good
single
defense
fucking part
secretary.
of
You
his
have
question. He
100%
got him.
confidence in
I
Pete
don't have
Hegseth.
100% confidence
In anyone.
anything. Okay, anything. Do I have 100%?
What a
It's
stupid
question. Look,
It's a pretty important
I
position.
have no. You don't have 100%. Only a liar would say I have 100% confidence. I don't have 100% confidence that we're going to finish this interview.
We will.
Let's go.
Damn.
Coming up, President Trump on Elon Musk and Doge.
Did Doge go too far, too fast, too recklessly?
President Trump, the first 100 days, continues.
Elon Musk and Doge. Everyone knows that there's wasteful government spending. It's really important. But the cuts have had some serious consequences.
They just failed to block the tariffs in the Senate by one vote. Seriously? Rip.
It's really important.
If that's true.
But the cuts have had some serious consequences. There have been cuts to foreign aid programs that save lives and keep people alive overseas. There's been research at the National Institutes of Health on cancer, on Alzheimer's, that has had to be stopped. And the question I think people have is, did Doge go too far, too fast, too recklessly?
No, I think Doge has
They didn't go fast enough.
saved $150 billion. Billion.
150
we
billion.
saved, that's a
Wow.
lot of money.
Far cry
There's
from what you
also a lot of
promised,
things
but
right now under investigation, which is going to increase that amount by a lot. That's a tremendous amount of
oh,
money.
it was 49-49, but McConnell and a Democrat weren't president. They could vote
There were
against.
some things where, when I heard about them, I put them back, as you know. There are things that I'm considering right now putting back, but overall, we've saved hundreds of billions of dollars.
Well, the original promise was $2 trillion, went to $1 trillion, now to $150
Well, I don't
billion,
know.
and heading
You don't know
south.
what it's going to be because we have things that are at a very high level that are being looked at right now. We also found tremendous waste, fraud, and abuse, as you know. We found a lot of fraud. There was a lot of fraud. Fraudulent things were taking place, and we ended that, and those people are going to be suffering because
Just
of it.
a legal note, fraud is a crime. There have been no referrals to the Justice Department on any.
Well, you don't know that, do you? How do you know that?
Have there been
How do you
referrals
know
to the?
that?
Are there
Why?
criminal
How
referrals?
would you know that there were no referrals? I think there were referrals.
They generally are. There's
Okay.
been no investigation from the
How do
Justice
you know
Department.
that?
I'm asking you, sir.
No, you're not asking me. You made a statement. You're not
Now I'm
asking
asking you.
That was a statement that you made. There have
Now I'm
been.
asking you.
Have there been? Yes, there have.
So there have been referrals for fraud from the
Of
work
course
of
there have been. Take a look at some of these
All right,
things that
all
took
right,
place.
all right.
Billions of dollars were given to people for no reason whatsoever. Of course there have been.
I want to bring up what is truly to a lot of people, one of the biggest achievements of your first term. That is Operation Warp Speed. You got that COVID vaccine up and going and distributed.
We don't talk about that.
A lot of people took it, and a lot of people that feel their lives have been saved by it. Now we have this measles outbreak, biggest in a decade in Texas, and it's because people aren't getting their children vaccinated. Do you recommend to parents that they get their children vaccinated for measles?
Well, I recommend the governors to make the decisions. You have a very talented governor of Texas, and he's making decisions, and those decisions are going to be made rapidly. This is a very much different thing than COVID in terms of rapidity and speed and other things. Measles have been with us a long time, and I'm not saying good, bad, or indifferent. I'm just saying that the governors are making the decision. It's a federalist decision.
The president is our leader in so many ways.
You mean not a federal decision,
And your voice counts so much, and you can't tell moms and dads, it's a good thing to get a measles vaccine.
Do I recommend it?
Yes.
Yes, I do. I recommend it, yeah.
Got it. That
Do
was
I
my
mandate
question.
it? No.
No, I didn't
But
ask
I
you.
do recommend it, yes.
Good. Do you think you're...
And I have recommended it.
Do you think the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has a history of, at the very least, vaccine skepticism, do you think Kennedy recommends the measles vaccine?
He did. He recommended it. Yeah, he did.
You satisfied with his
Yeah, I mean, he
response on this?
recommended that they go out and get the vaccine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still ahead.
There's only one kind of vaccine that RK supports, and that's called heroin, baby. Hell yeah.
Asking the justification for going after people you don't like.
President Trump, the first 100 days continues.
I want to talk a little bit about presidential power, the powers that you have in the presidency temporarily that the American people have given you, right? You've revoked a lot of people's security clearances. You've revoked people's security details who are still threatened, with death threats. You've gone after law firms because they've employed people you don't like, or they have represented people
Well,
you
they
don't like.
obviously agreed because they paid me a lot of money.
Well, the reason they...
It's just like open dictatorship. I love it. I love it. I love it too because none of these fucking cucks, none of these loser fucks who pretended to give a fuck about rule of law or anything. Like, they don't pretend anymore either, right? Because now that Trump's open about it, they can be open about it, right? Was I right? Obviously I was. They all settled, didn't they? Bitch.
agreed is because you were threatening to destroy their business with your executive order that said you can't represent clients for the federal government. That's their bread and butter.
Boys. These are the biggest, most powerful lawyers. These are not
You
people
got a lot of
that are
leverage as
easily
president.
intimidated.
As president, you've got all the cards.
I mean, they paid hundreds of millions of dollars because they felt, I guess, they probably felt they did something wrong.
It was for survival, sir.
No, it isn't.
You were
No,
crushing their business.
These firms are very powerful firms, and there's 15 of them. And these are firms that probably, look, you have to ask them. In fact, this is a separate story. You have to ask them, why did you all pay Trump hundreds of millions of dollars in services, etc.? Why did you do that? I don't know.
You don't think that
we have a clause in the thing that while we admit no wrongdoing, but it's like one of those things. And now I'm friendly with those firms, but it's these are the most powerful firms in the world, and they just signed whatever I put in front of them. I've never seen anything like it. I'm actually surprised myself in a certain way, but they obviously felt they probably did something wrong. I guess that's why they signed.
I guess the question out of that is the concern that people have. Are you using your powers as president to get personal revenge?
No, I'll tell you what. You're really not asking, and you should be asking. There has
Did they
never
go after me
been
personally?
a president
Yep.
in this country
That's been prosecuted
in
as much as me.
history that was persecuted like I
Persecuted,
was
sorry.
persecuted by really crooked people dishonest, horrible people, and it's been proven. So when you say I'm treating people rough, I'm not treating people rough. I was treated worse than any president in the history of our country. And, you know, people figured, well, maybe that's it. Finally, we got, you know, he's leaving town. There goes the helicopter. And then I came back. And I came back because I have tremendous support. You know, when you win an election like I won it, and you will admit I won all 7 swing states, I won the popular vote, I won 2,750 districts compared to 500 districts. That's why the map is all red. And those people feel that I was treated unfairly.
But does that give you the right to go after your political opponents with the powers of this office?
I'm going after, all I'm doing, hey, Biden did something to me, and I did something to Biden. And you know why I did it? Because he's grossly incompetent. That's not a man that should be allowed to, you know, be looking at things that are very confidential.
But what about,
because
there's 71 people.
Here's a man that used an auto pen to sign very important
Man, they love that auto pen
documents.
talking point.
Who really is, do you think he knew what...
Wait, was there any evidence that an auto pen was even used on some of these? Or what does that even mean? Is he just saying it was an electronic signature? Or is he saying that he had no idea, or like he wasn't even signing it?
They were using an auto pen? I mean, he used an auto pen to sign very, very important documents. And so those are really the questions you should be asking. What do you think of the auto pen? Who wielded the auto pen? Because whoever that person was, think of it, whoever the person that wielded the auto pen, he was really the president of the United States. Because I don't think that Biden knew anything about it.
Fair enough. But you are the president now, and I'm asking the justification for going after people you don't like.
No. People that I think are dishonest. It's not that I don't even know most of them. They're people that I think are dishonest.
These people made you angry.
No, it's not anger. These are people that I think are very dishonest. I don't think they're worthy of being able to go into top secret information. I think that's fine. And Biden did that with many of our people. But when you look at it, these are people that I don't think are worthy. That's my decision. It's not a question of anger.
Okay. I understand you just had a phone call with the new Canadian premier, and they just had this election.
Yeah.
You were a big issue in it, and Canadians, many of them, are really angry, furious about your talk about we're going to take over Canada, this is going to become the 51st state. And it kind of is of a piece. A lot of travel is down into the United States from around the world. It feels like there's been reputational damage.
The country's doing great.
Well,
prices are down.
Not the tourism.
Gasoline's down. Energy's down. Tourism is going to be way up. Wait till you see the numbers. The tourism is way up.
Not now.
Now Canada, tourism's doing very well. We're doing very well. We're doing very well. Wait till you see the real numbers come out in 6 months from now. Wait till you see the numbers.
But do you think, I'm going to ask you.
Oh, that's the issue, guys. We're not seeing the real numbers. We're just seeing the fake media numbers. Okay.
If I may, do you think the reputation of the United States has gone down under your presidency?
No, I think it's gone way up, and I think we're a respected country again. We were laughed at all over the world. We had a president that couldn't walk up a flight of stairs, couldn't walk down a flight of stairs, couldn't walk across a stage without falling. We had a president that was grossly incompetent. You knew it, I knew it, and everybody knew it, but you guys didn't want to write it because you're fake news.
All right. Thank you.
And by the way, ABC is one of the worst. I have to be honest with you.
Thank you for the opinion, but more importantly, thank you for having us here. I have one more question. It's a big one. It's a question that you know a lot of people have out there. What do you say to people?
He's so fucking mad. He's so fucking mad. And this wasn't even that harsh of an interview.
It's a question that you know a lot of people have out there. What do you say to people who are concerned you are seizing too much power and becoming an authoritarian president like we haven't had before?
No, I would hate them to think that. I'm doing one thing. I'm making America great again. We have a country that was failing. We have a country that was laughed at all over the world. We had a leader that was grossly incompetent. He should have never been there. The election was rigged. He should have never been there. Our country suffered greatly, and now our country's coming back like nobody can believe. I have editorials just today where they're saying they've never seen anything like it. They love it. Our country's coming back, and we're respected again.
Mr. President, thank you.
Thank you, Terry, very much.
Once again, we want to thank President Trump for inviting us to the White House 100 days into his second term. I'm Terry Moran. From all of us at ABC News, thank you for watching, and good night.
That was his first and last Trump interview ever. Ever.